All right, welcome back to the nervous system. We've gone over how it's organized, how the different tissues are all classified or its functions are classified. It's a pretty complex system in that it's what controls everything that we do, the decisions we make, all of it. So let's move on and look at the players within the nervous system, the different cells that are involved in maintaining and supporting our central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. So we have a group of cells that are known as neuroglia. Yes, I know there's a typo. I will fix that. There are 4 types of glia within the central nervous system. You've got astrocytes, microglia, ependymal cells, and oligodendrocytes. All right, looking at what they do. They function to support the shape of our nervous system. They kind of hold everything in place. They insulate the nervous system. They protect it from temperature and chemical changes within the body so that it allows homeostasis to be maintained. And then it protects the neurons itself by wrapping around them or preventing any type of traumatic injury. Let's first look at our astrocytes. They're star-shaped. That's why they're astro, as in astronomy. Star-shaped shells, astrocytes. They brace the neurons. They hold everything in place. Let's look at figure 7.3. It's a little bit more self-explanatory. So you've got your astrocytes, and they brace the neurons. They hold them in place, but they also surround the capillaries. What this does is it allows them to control the chemical environment within the brain to protect the neurons and allow them to work at optimum performance. The next cell are microglia. Microglia, they are phagocytes. These are the cells that come in and clean up any type of debris, viruses, or anything that may be found within the central nervous system. They're spider-like, and you can see all of the arms off of their central cell body. Again, they phagocytose any type of garbage debris that they find. Third, let's look at our ependymal cells. These cells, we're going to go with this. These cells line the cavities of any place where there's cerebral spinal fluid. So it's going to be in and around your spinal cord. It's going to be in the ventricles of your brain. It's going to be on the outside, any place where you have that cerebral spinal fluid. Because what they do is these little brush-like appendages off of them, they help to circulate that cerebral spinal fluid within the nervous system to help it stay balanced and maintain homeostasis and cushion the brain should anything happen. And then next, we're going to look at our oligodendrocytes. They actually wrap around the nerve cells and they produce the myelin sheaths. See the blue? This is the myelin sheath. And these are the nerve cells that are within it. The oligodendrocyte right here is the cell body, but they are protecting the nerve cells as well as helping in conduction. Let's look at our peripheral nervous system. The peripheral glial cells, there's 2 of them. You've got your satellite cells and you've got your Schwann cells. They are predominantly for protection. The satellite cells protect the cell bodies of the neuron, and the Schwann cells protect the axons, or the peripheral part of the cell. Let's go to this image here. It reminds me of the one-eyed alien in Lilo and Stitch. You've got the Schwann satellite cell that looks like the wig around the cell body. And then your Schwann cells help to protect the neuron, but as well they help with conduction. They surround the nerve cells much like the oligodendrocytes do in the central nervous system. And it allows for a more efficient conduction of the message through the nerve fiber. And then finally, we have our actual neurons, or the nerve cells. They are specialized messengers. They are completely specialized for moving these messages through them and along the nerve fibers as quickly as possible. There are a couple of major regions within the neurons. Your cell body, which holds the nucleus and is the metabolic center of the cell. It's the chemical processes within the cell that are controlled here. And then you've got your processes of the nerves of the neurons. And these are the fibers that extend away from the cell body. You've got axons and dendrites. Here we go. Here we have the cell body, right here. You have your dendrites, which are a process off of it. And you've got your axon here. Your dendrites always collect the information coming into the nerve cell, so they always go in. Axons always take the message away from the cell body. Here's a really cool stained micrograph of it. So here's your cell body, and then your dendrite. So let's focus on the processes outside of the cell body at this point in time. You've got your dendrites. They conduct the impulses into the cell body. You can have a neuron that can have hundreds of dendrites off of it. They are trying to collect as much information as they can as quickly as they can. So the more dendrites they have, the more effective it's going to be. Axons conduct the impulses away from the cell body. There's only one axon, nothing else. So you can have hundreds of dendrites here, but there's only one axon that leaves the cell body. Let's look at the axons. They end in an axon terminal. The terminals are where the neurotransmitters live. So imagine this, okay? You've got your axon. They end in the axon terminal. On the other side of this little gap, go back here. On the other side of this little gap that may be here are going to be the dendrites of the next cell body. Okay, so your message is going to extend through the axon, end of the axon terminal, which will release the neurotransmitter, which will activate the dendrites of the next nerve cell. So you've got your gap, synaptic gap, which is the gap between two adjacent neurons. It's what I just talked about right here. So there's a gap here, and then you'll have the dendrites of the next neuron. Okay, that gap is known as the synaptic cleft. And the synapse is the junction between two nerves. So the gap is the space, and the synapse is the junction itself. Wrapping around the axons, you have the myelin sheath. It is a fatty material, and it's produced by Schwann cells. It's like a jelly roll. Let's go here. So it's like a jelly roll. It wraps around, but leaves open these nodes. These nodes are called nodes of Ranvier, and what you'll have is you'll have the conduction jump from node to node to node. It's kind of like going into the airport, and when you see the elevator or the little elevator platform, but you're not going up the stairs, it just helps to move you along faster. That's kind of like what the myelin sheath does. So you could just stand there on the moving walkway and you'll move at about the same level. But if you're actually walking on that moving walkway, you're going to walk faster. That's kind of what the Schwann cell does. It's a moving walkway for the neurological impulse going through the nerve. It's called saltatory conduction. Okay, and it speeds up that impulse transmission. Your nerve cell bodies. All right, so let's take a look at gray matter and white matter within the central nervous system. Your gray matter within your brain is where your cell bodies are going to live because there's no myelin in there. Think about it this way. Any place where there's myelin, it's going to appear white. Any place where there's not myelin, it's going to appear gray. All of the neurons in the body, most of the neuron cell bodies are actually found in the central nervous system. Okay, that central nervous system can be in the spinal cord, but it can also be in the brain. It kind of depends on where it is. The cell bodies and any unmyelinated fibers are usually what is found in gray matter. And then you have your nuclei, which is also clusters of cell bodies found within the white matter of the central nervous system. The gray matter holds the majority of the cell bodies. And then as well in your peripheral nervous system. So the gray matter holds the cell bodies in the central nervous system. What about the cell bodies that are in the peripheral nervous system? It's kind of a two separate worlds here. In the peripheral nervous system, your cell bodies are going to live in the ganglia, which are just outside of the spinal cord, and they run up and down the spinal cord. So you can have a nerve in your leg where the cell body starts just up by where the spinal cord is in the ganglia, but then extends all the way out to the toe. So you can have a nerve fiber that is as long as your leg. So when you're looking at the organization of how these nerve fibers are bundled together, when you have a whole bunch of nerve fibers bundled together in the central nervous system, they're called tracts. When these nerve fibers are bundled in the peripheral nervous system, they're called nerves. White matter is where the myelinated fiber tracts live, and gray matter is where the unmyelinated fibers and the cell bodies live.